On the day I went into labor, my husband dumped me on an overpass and ran off to comfort the girl he's cheating with, the same broke student I helped get into college. By the time I reached the hospital, my blood had already stained half of my body. The doctor told me I had arrived too late. My baby was already gone. It felt as if my heart had been ripped from my chest. I called my husband, but he said, "Let's get a divorce first. We'll remarry once she's emotionally stable." I remained silent for a long time, then quietly whispered, "Okay, then we're both free." The poor student successfully rose in status, while I, feeling disheartened, left for a distant place. But luck found me. I remarried a kind man, and found happiness in a new family. 3 years later, I ran into my ex-husband, Silas Armani, and walking beside him, like a vision of elegance, was Elvira Conti. Once, Elvira wore patched clothes. She knelt before me, begging for money to attend college. I, moved by pity, had helped her, caring for her needs. Little did I know that the girl from the countryside had been plotting to take my place all along. It seemed that after pushing me aside, she had successfully won Silas's heart. Silas cursed me once, twice, and it still wasn't enough to ease his anger. He sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "I thought you had more dignity. Why show up again today? Alora, take a good look at yourself. You're nothing but the lowest of the low now. Since leaving me, you've had a miserable life, haven't you? If you need money, just ask. Stop trying to hide behind these ridiculous excuses to make yourself look better." Elvira sneered beside him, her words sharp. "Alora, Silas and I are about to get married. Your showing up without shame is really putting us in a tough spot." Silas pulled out a wad of cash with a flick of his wrist and threw it in my face. "This should be enough to get by for a few days. Now keep quiet." He grabbed Elvira's hand and turned away, leaving me standing in stunned silence. I was so angry, I couldn't find the words. I wanted to run after them, shout a few things, but then I glanced at the time. My husband's flight had just landed. I had a husband who loved me, so why let two rabid dogs ruin my mood? But as soon as I entered the VIP lounge, my brow furrowed. The air was thick with cigarette smoke, and men talked loudly and puffed their cigars like they owned the place. Silas was at the center of it all, surrounded by sycophants who lavished him with praise. A rotund man waddled over and sneered, "What are you doing here, country girl? This is a VIP lounge, not your personal resting spot. Get out." I pulled out my VIP card, but my irritation was barely contained. "I'm not in the wrong place. I paid for this." The man opened his mouth to retort, but before he could speak, Silas approached. His voice was cold, his gaze cutting. "Alora, is this what you've come to? Begging me for money? Now you're buying your way into the VIP lounge?" Before I could speak, he tossed a few bills at me, his fingers moving like he had all the time in the world. Without a second thought, he ripped my VIP card in half. "The money's refunded. You're no longer welcome here. Can you leave now?" My blood boiled, and the words I wanted to scream barely stayed in my throat. I waved down a lounge attendant, my voice trembling with anger. The attendant sized me up with an icy look before responding, "Ma'am, the VIP lounge is for VIPs. Your status alone means that even if you complain, your words won't carry much weight. In short, I don't care. Do whatever you want." At that moment, Silas glanced at me with disdain, his gaze like a cold blade. "Alora, after 3 years, you've truly humiliated yourself." Elvira, ever the actress, put on a concerned face, her words dripping with insincerity. "Alora, you should leave. Staying here will only make a fool of you." The people around me mocked and belittled me without a shred of restraint. Silas, who had once been my husband, knew I was being wronged, yet not a single word of defense came from his lips. Instead, he pointed at me with contempt, his voice dripping with disdain. "I don't know where she heard that from, but she came here hoping to meet President Ferrari. Look at her, pathetically begging for money. Absolutely shameless. It's sickening." The crowd around me stared, their eyes filled with scorn as they tore into me. "Lady, dignity matters. It's time for you to leave." I met their harsh words with cold defiance. "I didn't come here begging for money. I just happened to run into Silas." Silas sneered, his voice dripping with disdain. "Your pitiful act of playing coy, and you think I'll fall for it? Alora, I once loved you, but I've long since run out of patience with you." He pulled Elvira close, a clear show of possession, and shot me a glance. "I have someone else now, and we're getting married soon. As for you, you're neither my first love nor my obsession. You're just a fleeting shadow. Seeing you here today only brings one feeling: disgust. Your methods are dirty beneath me." The first clap came from nowhere. Then, the whole room joined in. The businessmen clapped eagerly, their faces gleaming with admiration. "Silas is so powerful. Silas really knows how to protect his woman. What dominance." The sycophantic display turned my stomach. I couldn't bring myself to engage with these people, so I turned to leave. But Elvira stepped in front of me, blocking my path. Elvira pointed to her high heels, her voice dripping with pride. "These shoes? Custom made, worth 30,000. You stepped on me earlier and now the surface of my shoe is ruined. Don't you think you owe me an apology?" Everyone's gaze shifted to me, their eyes cold and judgmental. Silas's eyes locked on me, his expression hardening. "Alora, you've really sunk to new lows. Pay for the damages, or we'll call the police." The crowd around us quickly rallied behind Silas. "We should call the police and teach her a lesson." I glanced at the time, my heart sinking. I was about to be late picking him up again. A moment of silence passed, and I finally spoke, my voice steady. 30,000. I'll pay you first. But but this isn't over. I'll ask the police to investigate. If I'm at fault, you keep the 30,000. If not, you'll return the money and apologize publicly. I reached for my phone to make the transfer, but before I could, Silas reached out and knocked it from my hands. He jabbed a finger toward my face, his tone dripping with contempt. 30,000? Do you even have that much? Stop pretending. The phone shattered on the floor. I turned to leave, but they blocked my way, their eyes full of derision. The waiter locked the VIP room door. His words were formal and cold. We're waiting for the police. No one can leave until this economic dispute is resolved. I knew beneath his polished tone, it was all just to placate her important guests. Everyone's eyes turned to me, their judgment heavy in the air. I had no choice but to sit in the corner, silent, and waiting for the police to arrive. As my gaze swept over the crowd, I locked eyes with Elvira. Her gaze was sharp, filled with satisfaction. I froze for a moment. Was she truly enjoying watching me suffer? The same person who had once helped her? She wasn't just ungrateful. She was a scheming fake woman who would do anything to climb up, no matter who she hurt. I had no idea when their affair had started, but by the time I discovered it, my pregnancy had already advanced. For the sake of the baby, I endured in silence. But I never imagined that on the day I was about to give birth, Elvira would threaten to slit her wrists, forcing Silas to abandon me on that cold, desolate overpass. The memories still burned so vividly in my mind, and I couldn't help but let out a deep, sorrowful sigh. I didn't know when it happened, but suddenly Elvira had squeezed her way to my side. Her voice was a venomous whisper against my ear. Sister Alora, the tables have turned now. You and Silas are divorced. Your child didn't survive, and you'll never see a penny of Silas's inheritance. By the way, Sister Alora, you don't know, do you? When I used to bring you coffee, I secretly slipped abortion pills into it. The words hit me like a slap to the face. My mind reeled, the painful memories flooding back. The excruciating stomach cramps the day of the miscarriage, the child I never had the chance to meet. Anger surged through me like wildfire. I stood up, trembling with fury, and slapped Elvira across the face. But before I could even process what I'd done, Silas was already on me. He shouted, his voice full of rage. Alora, how dare you hit her? He kicked me in the chest with brutal force. I gasped in pain. The air knocked out of my lungs as I crumpled to the floor. I couldn't breathe, couldn't even make a sound through the agony ripping through my chest. But Silas wasn't done. He grabbed a fistful of my hair and yanked me up, his voice cold and commanding. Apologize to Elvira. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came. Silas shoved me with all his might, sending me crashing into the corner. I struggled to rise, but before I could even get my bearings, Elvira kicked the back of my knee, forcing me to stumble. I collapsed, my knee throbbing with sharp, unrelenting pain. Around us, the wealthy guests did nothing. Some even seemed to watch with eager anticipation, as though ready to join in on the torment. Just then, the door to the VIP room was flung open. The waiter, his voice dripping with enthusiasm, called out, "Mr. Ferrari, you've arrived." In that instant, tears welled up in my eyes. My husband came.